Okay, next we're going to go ahead and kind of constrain our page area to a fixed width. So we have a static page layout created that's going to be set to 960 pixels. Which is very common in web design. And to do this, the first thing I'm going to do is actually come down here to my tag selector and click the body tag. And when I do that, that selects everything between the body tag, opening and closing tags. And basically it chooses everything on your page. So now with everything selected, I'll come up here and again insert my div tag. And this one I'm actually going to choose wraparound selection because I chose everything within the body tag and I want to wrap that div tag around everything within the body tag. And again, I'll choose my new CSS rule. This is going to be an ID. I'm going to call this div tag wrapper, which is a common term for wrapping the page contents in a div tag. And then have the external style sheet contain the rule. Say OK. Brings me into my CSS. Here I'm not going to set up a background color, but I am going to set up a border, and I want it to be solid, 1 pixel. And this time I'm going to go ahead and create it to be kind of a green border so we can see it a little better. And then I'll come in here to box and I'm going to set my pixel width at 960 and I'm going to leave my height blank. Anytime you leave a height blank, it will conform to the size of the content that it contains. So even though I set my left sidebar and my right content area div tags to have a fixed height of 500 pixels, typically in web design I would leave those blank and let whatever the content is that I put into each of these boxes control the height of that div tag. As you know, everybody's browser and every user has a different font size that they like to view websites and even views of websites in their browser. They can increase that so it's much larger. And it causes the content to flow and fill up a larger area in the height of the element. And therefore, if you leave it blank, it will automatically size to whatever that content is, regardless of the user's settings for the browser. So I'll go ahead and leave this height blank. I don't have to worry about a float because I am not floating it. And I'll go ahead and say OK. And I'll come back here, double check myself. Everything looks good. Say OK. And notice that now, here's my web page. And we have a slight issue. This right content area no longer, when I constrain this to 960 pixels, this content area is no longer fitting perfectly in this area. Now, this lesson is also over the box model. And what you're seeing here is issues with the box model that we didn't count on in our layout of our border. Remember, the box model in web design calculates based on the size of the element and borders as well as padding and margins. Well, in this case, we've applied a border to all of our images, or not images, but our div tags. So even though we set the width to be 960 pixels, I put a 1 pixel border around each of these div tags. Therefore, on the left and right, there is another pixel that's added to that 960. So each of these have a 962 width, as well as a height that has an additional 2 pixels added to it based on what we set those individual heights for the div tags to be. So for this to contain these elements, so that they fit side by side, we have to play a little bit with the box model to make them fit. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, adjust the width for my header div right here, as well as my navigation div, as well as my footer div, so that everything is contained in my wrapper. So if I come over here to my CSS styles panel, let me make that a little bit bigger so I can see it. I'll come up here to my header div, and then down here in the properties, instead of a width of 960, I'm going to make this 2 pixels less, so 958. And when I click away, you'll see that that header div adjusts a little bit and it fits better within the area that it's contained of the wrapper. I'm going to do the same for the navigation. So I'll come here to my nav. This one I'm going to set to be 958. And again, when I click away, you'll see that adjust. It fits nicer right over here. And I'll do the same thing to the footer area for 958. And that, go ahead and adjust this right down here. But that didn't help our floated left sidebar and our floated right content area. So to change those, we need to again look at the box model. We have an extra or a border, a 1 pixel border around each of these. So this one right here was set to, and I'll go ahead and change this, 250 width plus, and I'm just going to go ahead and type this in just as content. We have a 1 pixel border on the left and a 1 pixel border on the right, which adds another 2 pixels to this width. So this one is really 252. So I want this to be, again, 250, so I need to subtract 2 pixels from my left sidebar. So I'll come up here and choose the left sidebar in my CSS styles panel. Come down here and set this to 248. And when I click away, it adjusts, but doesn't allow this right content area to fit up in this designated area. And again, it's due to the box model and the 1 pixel border, so I need to drop that 710 width of this right content div tag down 2 pixels to make it fit. So I'll come here to the right content, 710 minus 2 pixels is going to be 708. And when I set that and click away, you'll see that my layout comes together. Everything is now fit within this area. And notice that I have this little gap down here where my wrapper, which is the outer border here, that's holding my page together. And I need to get rid of this. I'll just go ahead, and what I have is actually a paragraph. You can see here in the code. So I'll go ahead and just delete that. Excuse me. And then everything pulls up and fits. I can get rid of this border and oops. There's my page. Everything looks good. And that is a short tutorial on how to use div tags to create a page layout. In assignment 4, which is assigned today, you're going to create some sample layouts using div tags. So thanks for listening, and keep on working and learning about div tags for this week, and work through the content area for session 7.